Welcome to Satluj TV News. You're watching the News Hour with Angus Scott in London. It's Tuesday, the 2nd of May. These are the main headlines from around the world. Despite the ceasefire, fierce fighting rages in Sudan as humanitarian crisis begins to unfold. More than 20,000 Russian soldiers are estimated to have been killed since December in Ukraine. Food production in Europe's market garden under serious threat as rivers dry up. Rockets fire into Israel as Palestinian hunger striker dies. And a breakthrough as scientists using AI find a new way to more accurately read minds. Welcome to the News Hour. These are today's main stories in detail. Fierce fighting between rival generals is raging in Sudan despite the latest ceasefire, as warnings multiplied of the potential for a catastrophic humanitarian crisis, with hundreds of thousands of refugees. At least 528 have been killed and some 4,600 wounded so far in the fighting. The UN said it was bracing for the possibility of over 800,000 people fleeing the fighting for neighbouring countries, and that the situation was turning into a full-blown catastrophe. The WHO has also warned that the fighting was pushing Sudan's already ailing health sector toward disaster, with only 16% of health facilities in Khartoum still functioning. Sudan's turmoil has seen hospitals shelled, humanitarian facilities looted, and foreign aid groups forced to suspend most of their operations. Many nations have now evacuated thousands of their own citizens from the country as it sinks towards civil war. The US estimates that more than 20,000 Russian soldiers have been killed in fighting in Ukraine since December, with a further 80,000 wounded. It's reported that almost half this number are from the Wagner mercenary company who have been assaulting the eastern city of Bakhmut since last year. Bakhmut has been the focus of the Russian advance for several months, and the assault has turned into a war of attrition, with Ukraine stating it is using the battle to grind down both the Russian military machine, but also its resolve in their invasion of the country. The notorious Wagner mercenary group is known for using convicts as troops, but have had a fractious relationship with the Kremlin, who it accuses of not providing sufficient support and resources. As such, it has recently threatened to withdraw its troops from Ukraine and redeploy them to Mali. Gaza militants fired rockets overnight into Israel after the death in custody of a leading Palestinian figure in the Islamic Jihad group. He had been on hunger strike for nearly 3 months. The cross-border fire followed the death of Khadr Adnan, who had been on hunger strike since his detention by Israeli forces in the occupied West Bank in February. The news was swiftly followed by rocket fire towards Israel, which fell in open areas according to the Israeli military. Adnan's death, the first Palestinian to die as a direct result of a hunger strike, was described as a deliberate assassination by Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh. Food production in Spain is under serious threat as this year's heatwave dries up key rivers. The tap that turned the arid semi-desert of southeastern Spain into Europe's market garden may be about to be turned off, threatening the intensive farms that feed much of the continent. Spain is the EU's biggest producer of fruit and vegetables, and almost half of its exports are from crops irrigated by huge transfers of water from the river Tagus, hundreds of kilometres from the north, down to the southern growing areas. But with climate change hitting Spain hard, and 3/4 of the country at risk of desertification, the government has decided to limit the flow of the dwindling waters of the River Tagus to the southeastern Levante. This region is Europe's biggest horticultural hotspot, employing over 100,000 people in a business that turns over €3 billion a year. 2 pastors have appeared in court in Kenya, accused of causing the deaths of at least 109 people, who were found buried in what has been dubbed the Shakahola forest massacre. The deeply religious Christian-majority country of Kenya has been stunned by the discovery of mass graves last month in a forest area near the coastal town of Malindi. Self-proclaimed pastor Paul Nthengi Mackenzie is accused of inciting cult followers to starve to death in order to meet Jesus. Of the 109 people so far confirmed dead, most of them were children. Autopsies have confirmed that the cause of death was starvation in many, but others had died of asphyxiation. US conservation groups have announced that they are suing the Federal Aviation Administration in America for not doing enough to protect the environment from SpaceX's Starship program. The move came after the world's most powerful rocket exploded on its first integrated test flight, just 4 minutes after launch in Texas on April the 20th. A hail of debris was blasted into the Gulf of Mexico, whilst a cloud of dust floated over a small town several miles away. The test flight caused a fire of about 3.5 acres in Boca Chica State Park, south of the launch pad, although up until now no dead birds or wildlife have been found. After suffering more than half a century of armed conflict in Colombia between the state and various groups of left-wing guerrillas, right-wing paramilitaries and drug traffickers, Pablo Beltran of the National Liberation Army has claimed that they are close to reaching a preliminary ceasefire with the government. The conflict in the country is extremely complex, with multiple armed groups and high levels of distrust. Fighting had continued despite a breakthrough peace deal that saw the massive FARC guerrilla group disarm in 2017. But President Gustavo Petro, who took office last August, has pledged to bring a total peace to the country. Pro-independence forces have won elections on France's Pacific territory of French Polynesia. The result allows the forces to push France to negotiate a referendum for independence of the territory, located northeast of New Zealand, with a population of some 280,000. The result is a blow to France's President Macron as he seeks to project France as a major power in the Pacific region, with its strategic overseas territories that remain unmatched by any other European nation. Online misinformation is fueling Islamophobia across India, according to recent reports. The country's population of 1.4 billion includes around 210 million Muslims and is growing. But a war of misinformation across social media has spread the claim that India will soon become a Muslim-majority country. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi's Hindu-dominated BJP party has at times warned of Muslim plots. Conspiracy theories that allege a Muslim plot to secure the faith's numerical supremacy in India have been a staple of Hindu nationalist ideologues for years. Similar theories of immigrants and minorities replacing majority populations have also been embraced by the far right in other countries. The BJP has come to dominate national politics, partly through its muscular appeals to the country's Hindu majority. A computer scientist, often dubbed the godfather of artificial intelligence, has quit his job at Google to speak out about the dangers of the technology. Geoffrey Hinton, who created a foundation technology for AI systems, warned that advancements made in the field posed a profound risk to society and humanity. In March, tech billionaire Elon Musk and a range of experts called for a pause in the development of AI systems to allow time to make sure that they are safe. In response, Google stated that they remained committed to a responsible approach to AI. And finally, scientists have found a way to use brain scans and artificial intelligence modelling to transcribe the gist of what people are thinking, in what has been described as a step towards mind reading. While the main goal of the language decoder is to help people who have lost the ability to communicate, the technology goes beyond what had been achieved by previous brain-computer interfaces. It's the first system to be able to reconstruct continuous language without an invasive brain implant. The scientists have acknowledged that the technology raised questions about mental privacy and also called for regulations to protect mental privacy. You've been watching the News Hour on Satluj TV, and those were a few of today's main stories from around the world. Don't forget you can send us your opinions and thoughts that you may have on any of our news items to our email address, that's message@satlujtv.com, and we'd love to hear from you. In the meantime, thanks for watching. For Satluj TV News, I'm Angus Scott in London.